welcome back to week 3 of Coal Region Football's TNT Thursday night tailgate. I'm Patrick Ramsey. With me is Brad Hurley and John Cooper. We're here to recap week 2's AFL action and take a look ahead at all the exciting games we have coming up in week 3. Here we are, guys, already 3 weeks into the season, and exciting weekend of football and an exciting weekend ahead. So overall, we all saw some games this past weekend. Any opening thoughts?
I mean, I think we had another kind of slate of blowouts there, except for obviously the one surprise in the Schuylkill and Mono game. But other than that, I think things have gone the way that we thought they've gone so far. All the favorites have pretty much won, except for the one upset there. And now we're starting to get further into the season. Week 3 now, we've got some big games already here, and some big games on the horizon for week 4. So just waiting to see how things are going to play out.
Yeah, and I think in our big game, the Blue Mountain North Schuylkill game, I think we saw North Schuylkill flex their muscle a little bit and show that they deserve that #1 spot in the coaches poll, and it looks like they're going to be the team to beat down the stretch.
Well, speaking of that #1 spot in the coaches poll, we got some questions this week. So what we're going to do is, as we move along, kind of address them. One of the questions we had was from Sean, and that question was North Schuylkill being the team that was picked first place in the AFL by 7 out of the 11 coaches preseason poll. After 2 weeks, is that still the case, and do we still feel like that's where we're at? And I think obviously right now that certainly seems to be the case.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, from what I've seen around the league, and I had the opportunity to cover them last week, and they're legit. A lot of offensive weapons that we talked about, but I got to see firsthand this week how dominant they are on the line of scrimmage on both ends of the ball. Paul Dean does a tremendous job of defensively, just plugging all the runs, and it's very hard to move the ball against them. And if you can't move the ball against them and you give the ball back to their offense enough, they're going to hurt you eventually. So I'm very impressed with North Schuylkill as of now.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, when you got 11 athletes on the field at one time, and you have a weakness. I mean, these guys are football savvy guys. Like Coop said, the line is it all starts up front, especially in this league. If your line is as big as them, as athletic as they are, and they have the blocking scheme that they have, and they can mix it up with a pass and play action, and like they've been doing, and they can get it out to big targets like they have. You're gonna be tough to beat every week. I mean, there's just no way to game plan for that. I mean, you just gotta kind of hope they make a mistake or hope for some turnovers. I mean, and right now they're playing mistake-free football. So until they start to make some mistakes, I would say that no doubt they're 100% the favorite moving forward.
Yeah, it's really hard to find a weakness right now on that squad. So we would all agree that right now they're still the favorite. But obviously they got a big week ahead. We actually got a second question from Sean, which is a real good one, and we'll address that later when we get into our week 3 preview. So what we're going to do is get right into the week 2 recaps. First game, we got one team playing out of league as always. That is Tamaqua. They were hosting Schuylkill Valley. Big game for Tamaqua. It's out of league, but this is a huge game for them coming off the week 1 loss. Also losing their starting quarterback, unfortunately, the freshman Thad Zuber. So they had to make some changes coming into week 2. And boy, they got to be thrilled with the results. Tamaqua comes ahead 25-6. Big win for the Raiders.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked last week about them having to go out of league this week after that tough loss to play what we thought was a very good Schuylkill Valley team. Some impressive numbers that Brad gave last week. We talked about their changes at quarterback and what that was going to lead to, and it led to great offensive production. Bud Moyer over 200 yards rushing, and we're going to talk more about him later. But Tamaqua just came out and got it done, and the defense looked like a completely different defense from the previous week, and just shutting down a very good offense for Schuylkill Valley.
I mean, I think all three of us really didn't know too much about Schuylkill Valley, except for the fact that we saw in week 1. Mm-hmm. And we know the last couple of years they've been powerful. I mean, they came up here and they beat PV pretty handily a couple of years ago. But
they've been having some skill players.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they have.
They really have.
And they've been a skilled bunch, but the first week we didn't know what Susquehanna was, and we saw they blew them out. So this was a bounce-back game for Tamaqua. This was a game that Tamaqua needed, and it showed that they still have the toughness on the defense. That now that they figured out their offense, maybe now they have this pounding run game. Maybe this can be their bread and butter now to start the season. And sometimes things like injuries, that can show you what you have and what you don't have. Mm-hmm. And this showed that Tamaqua is. When they're faced with adversity, they can come back and get a win against a team that's been successful the last few seasons.
Yeah, kudos to Tamaqua. That was huge coming back after that week 1. We're all kind of curious to see how they were going to respond because it involved multiple changes. Mm-hmm. Not only do you lose your quarterback, but now you're shuffling guys around. And, for as frustrated as they must have been after week one, that nothing that a win doesn't solve. So everybody's feeling good right now in Tamaqua, and they get a big win this week, 25-6 over Schuylkill Valley. So moving ahead, we had the Olympians, Jim Thorpe at home, defending AFL champs, hosting Shenandoah. Olympians once again in the wrong, 46-0. I think, can we officially say the Red Swarm is back?
Yeah, we can, but I mean, let's be honest here. And, they've had the best draw out of the AFL team to start. You know what I mean? They have the two teams with the least amount of experience, the least amount of athletes coming back at every offense and defense. But hey, you got to play the game, you got to win the game, right? Mm-hmm. And they've only let up 11 first downs and 147 yards rushing throughout their first two games, and obviously 0 points. So that's impressive to say the least. Their offense was 460 total yards again. So they're rolling. They're rolling. We'll get into this later in the week again, but now they're going to face. They're going to have their first challenge of the year in Tamaqua, and we'll get into that later. But they're rolling. They're playing well, but we'll see what they're made of coming up this week.
Yeah, another impressive game from quarterback Shane Snitsky, over 100 yards rushing, 169 yards passing, threw a 34-yard touchdown pass to Ryan Carroll. So yeah, Jim Thorpe had everything going for last Friday night. Offensively, they're moving the ball at ease. Defensively, they played well, and congratulations to Coach Rosenberger, who picked up his 100th victory. So send the congratulations.
And actually at midnight that night was his birthday. So
Happy birthday! Congrats, boy, that's a nice present.
Yeah, that was a nice present. But like you said, I think this week we'll get a better idea of what Jim Thorpe's all about when Tamaqua comes.
Yeah.
So it should be good.
I think we absolutely will, and like you said, congrats to Coach Rosenberg. That's a huge accomplishment, getting 100 wins, playing in the tough AFL. So it's a big credit to him and his staff and the program that they run there. Also, Heller. What's Heller's first name?
Robbie.
251 yards now through 2 weeks, 3 TDs. They got multiple weapons there. It's impressive.
And his per carry, I mean, it's up there too. It's right around 10. So he's running the ball hard, and he's their every down back, I would say, and then they have the other guys.
Yeah, Justin St. Hill averaged 10 yards a carry last week.
Yeah.
6 carries, 63 yards. So yeah, they're getting it done in big chunks.
Mm-hmm. And Shenandoah, hang in there. I mean, it was a tough draw for them this year with their first 2 games. They had Blue Mountain, and then they got to get on the road travel with Jim Thorpe.
Yeah.
They'll have some games playing against teams in the second half, second tier of the league, according to the records coming up soon. So, keep plugging away. Next, we're going to take a look at the Indians of Lehighton at home. Big home opener, home AFL opener against Minersville. Lehighton jumps out right from the gun, gets a big lead on Minersville, and rolls to a 50-8 win. Probably pretty much what we expected. I mean, Lehighton's has weapons. Speaking of weapons, again, weapons all over the place, and once again they roll 50-8 at home.
Yeah, and another big game from Wyatt Clements. We talked about a lot this season already. 132 rushing yards, 4 times he found the end zone. So it was early and often that Clements was camping out in the end zone there. And Tyler Can, the quarterback, chipped up a nice game, ran for 45, threw for another 99, had a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. So again, Lehighton coming out of the gate, they had a good draw. We talked about the bad rushing. Let's face it, Lehighton got a nice draw coming out. And now this week, they get North Schuylkill, they get the big boys, and I think North Schuylkill was a little more tested weeks 1 and 2, and I want to see if Lehighton can really come out and match that intensity and enthusiasm that North Schuylkill's going to bring.
Yeah, I think the key for Lehighton has been who we thought they were going to be for. And they have in basketball the big 3, and I call them the big C's. Can, Crum, and Clemens. Those guys have been everything they've been advertised to be on the offensive side and the defensive side. Lehighton's defense has been just as impressive as our offense. They only got up 136 total yards last week. I mean, they are a physical, very physical bunch, and they get very hyped. They fly to the football, and that's what Coach Tom McCarroll has emphasized even the first year that they were there. He goes, "This is the kind of team we want to be. We want to come out, we want to hit hard, we want to be the blue collar team." And he mentioned that when they were in NBC, he wanted to be that blue collar team. So when they came to the AFL, they fit right in. They weren't finesse at all coming from the real fast athletic NBC league. They came in there ready to play, and they're showing that. There's a quote he said last week. He goes, "Listen, we knew we could compete in the AFL, and we're showing people that right away. And there's no doubt in anybody's mind now that he was right.
And Ken just really looks to be a perfect general for that
Yeah.
team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, comes up with big plays in key moments. You know, maybe you won't always have the stats of some of the other quarterbacks around the league or you know, or in the district. But boy, the kid's a gamer, makes big plays, and you know, real heady quarterback.
Yes.
You know, he seems like a really perfect guy to lead that squad. He really does.
Yep.
Okay, so Lehighton, once again, they were on 50-8, setting up a big showdown, which we'll get to in the second half of our show. Next, we're going to move on to one of our co-games of the week. We had 2 games pegged. One, the big rivalry between Marion and Panther Valley. The second, the big game against Blue Mountain and North Schuylkill. North Schuylkill travels to Blue Mountain, pitches a shutout, 24-0. You know, North Schuylkill, you know, we were curious to see how they would do this week against a squad like Blue Mountain. You know, Coop, you were there, you saw it firsthand.
Yeah, and it was first half was everything we expected. North Schuylkill scored early in the first quarter. Probably within the first 5 minutes of the game, they found Zahodnik on a little flag route to the end zone. He has a lot of speed, gets behind defenders. Grigas threw perfect passes, he normally does. They jump out to 7-0 lead, and then after that, Blue Mountain played phenomenal defense the rest of the first half. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get any moving offensively. I mean, North Schuylkill's defense is lights out. There's only a handful of times where Blue Mountain was even able to cross the 50-yard line and get into North Schuylkill territory. So, defensive battle, 7-0, all the way down until we're under 2 minutes to play in the first half, and Grigas throws on as far as he can, as long as he can for Murray. Tevin Murray out jumps the kid, gets him down around the 15-yard line, and Grigas takes it in a couple runs later. So, early first quarter, North Schuylkill scores not again until late in the half. They score about 14-0 at halftime, and like I said, offensively, Blue Mountain just couldn't get any gear to try to catch up, and North Schuylkill wore them down along the way, ended up with a 24-0 win. And like I said, an impressive defensive performance, because the week before we saw the numbers that Blue Mountain put up offensively, and they were running like crazy. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, coming into that game, obviously we've been talking about North Schuylkill, the preseason favorite. We know what type of team they have. There's no secret there. You know, it was our co-game of the week for a reason. You know, we know what type of athletes Blue Mountain typically has, and you know, we know what they did week 1, although it was against a less experienced team. But I think we expected a little bit more of a game here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's really not much to add. I mean, you just see how powerful they are up front. I think that's the story. But they're going to have the advantage every week up front. I mean, within the Anthracite League, they're just powerful. They're strong. They're athletic. They move well. It's not like they're, you know, a bunch of hosses out there moving slow. Right. They know how to move. They know how to block. They get downfield when they have to. And anytime you have that, you're going to have an advantage. And I mentioned to you guys before we went on that they can mix it up now. I mean, they have the athletes, they have the running backs, they have the depth, and they have the receiving core with how talented and big they are to mix it up. They can run it 10 times down your throat, and then once you think you're going to run it, they'll play action and hit with one of their big guys deep. So anytime you have that, you know, that advantage on the team, you're going to be successful. And you know, Coach Wally Hall's done a good job getting his kid prepared. They've obviously worked really hard in the off season because they weren't going to. Last year they were hyped up. Last year they came out and they kind of got some injuries and didn't perform to what I think they wanted to. And this year, obviously, you can tell that they wanted to change that.
Yeah, the Eagles did a tremendous job of containing Rapinski the whole night. You know, he grinded out his yards, a workmanlike effort, but he didn't hurt him for any big runs. But Grigas did a nice job running the football, and you know, they always had that threat to go up top. And they're tough to defend.
And you know, defensively for North Schuylkill, CJ Steinhibler and Tyler Brill, 2 other guys making big plays all over the place. You know, we always hear about Major Jordan and you mentioned Paul Dean, but those are 2 other guys that really were impressive. Were very impressive on the defensive end. And you know, you guys out there getting good feedback on Twitter and email and even on Facebook. So. You know, hey, if there's a player out there that we're not mentioning that deserves a shout out, don't hesitate to tell us. We want to know about those guys that maybe aren't getting the headlines and aren't getting the stats. And you know, CJ Steinhibler and Tyler Brill are 2 of those guys. So great job this past weekend. Moving on to our second co-game of the week, Panther Valley travels up to Marion for the backyard brawl. And first half, turnovers set the tone and kind of snowballed from there. So it was never much of the game that we anticipated.
No, you can't. when you're in a rivalry game like that on the road, you can't fumble your first 2 possessions. And Panther Valley did that, and then the momentum kind of swung from there. And you could tell there was just they just had matchup problems all night from every. I mean, the offensive line from the first series, you could tell they had one or two nice plays there in the beginning. They got up to midfield, and then just Marion's really showing people that their front four are impressive. They have some guys that can really speed rush. Their defensive tackles really do a good job of penetrating the gaps and getting in the backfield. And they've showed that, which was kind of a question mark going into the year, that their defense is good. And we talked about that last week and the week before. When Marion's defense is good, they're always good. They're always there at the end of the year. So, I mean, Panther Valley I think they need to find some playmakers. I mean, the offense just really looked pretty anemic. I mean, they just couldn't find anything going for them. And they just got to come back and just keep trying to play hard. I mean, Marion's rolling. Marion is ready to go. They had that tough Williams Valley team they beat, and then this game's, like we said last week, this game throughout the records. You get a 52-0 win over Panther Valley, and that's not easy to do.
Right.
You don't see that kind of score in this rivalry very often. So, obviously Panther Valley, it's a big letdown for them. Marion, it's a big boost moving forward for them. So, each team's just got to do what they got to do to get things going in the right direction.
Yeah, that game reminded me a lot of the week 1 game between Mont Airy and Lehighton. It just got out of control quick on them with turnovers, and they just couldn't recover. And like Brad said, once they get down, where Marion could open up the playbook and do whatever they wanted to. McCormick had a tremendous game for them. They had a hard time defending him, and offensively they got to find something there. They just struggled offensively, and it's one that they're obviously going to learn from and hopefully bounce back from. We saw the way Mont Airy bounced back. We'll talk about that a little bit. So. With Panther Valley's next opponent being Mont Airy coming in, perfect example of the way you can bounce back and play a good game the week after, everything just falls apart on you.
Yeah, Marion, and this was a game that I was at. I was impressed by the playmakers they had out there. It seemed like they had a lot of athletes, a lot of depth, and there's no reason that they shouldn't compete with those top teams. There really isn't.
Yeah.
Last year, we heard a lot about the injuries that they had,
Yeah.
and this year I don't think any of that could be any type of excuse. I mean,
No.
they have depth. They have guys coming in. They have Mascorner comes in, and obviously he's a huge pickup for them. D'Angelo comes in, and he's starting a linebacker and tight end, and they certainly have the pieces. So it's going to be interesting to see as the year goes on and they start playing the upper echelon teams. If that's something that they can keep going.
Yeah, and early in the year we talked about Schuylkill Haven being one of those small schools that could step up and play with the bigs. I think Marion may have taken a little step over Schuylkill Haven as being that small team that can get up there and battle with the North Schuylkills and the Titans this year. So they're looking good.
Next, shocker. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Was this a shocker?
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. It's a shocker.
I think so too. And personally, here's the biggest reason I'm shocked. First of all, obviously we're talking about Mont Airy 38, Schuylkill Haven 21. After last week, after week 1, I look at the schedule. I'm thinking, I would not want to be Mont Airy playing Schuylkill Haven because they weren't happy with the way they played at Panther Valley. It was a game until there was 7 minutes left in the game, and they were in a dogfight.
Right.
And they weren't happy with the way they played. They weren't happy with the way they were executing. And we know the type of coach that Coach Farr is. We know the type of program he runs. And all of us sat here and we thought, boy, they're going to come out guns blazing week 2. Wouldn't want to be playing them. And Monte area, you did see glimpses week 1.
Yeah.
You saw things that other people might not have saw. You said there was a lot of positives, even though the score didn't show it against Lehighton. But I don't think anyone really could have predicted this. Monte area seals it with a late scoop and score on a fumble, and they beat the 3rd-ranked single-A team in the state, Schuylkill Haven, 38-21.
Yeah, I mean, really, really, really big shocker to me personally. I mean, I honestly can't. I can't figure Schuylkill Haven out right now. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I mean, I thought I was like the coolest guy in the room when I thought I picked them to win it in our little office thing. I said, listen, I think Haven's gonna win it. I saw them play last year. I saw how hot they got. I saw what they had when they had all their guys.
Oh yeah, the way they were playing at the end of the year. They're at the end of the year. They certainly could have made a case they're the best team in the league.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So I just don't. I don't get it. I can't. I'm not there. I don't know what's going on. Obviously, I don't know if anybody does. And I wasn't at the game. I only saw what the statistics said. But just looks that if you can, spread things out on them, you can get to them. And that's what Monterey did. If you have somebody like Mason Ryan that can do different things, then you have a chance to beat them. And maybe that week 1 with Panther Valley, maybe that showed that that's where they're at. I mean, simple as that. I mean, 2 weeks in and you got all your guys there. I mean, it's not like they have anybody hurt. Right. They got all their guys there. Right. So we'll just have to see what happens. I mean, but you really got to give them Monterey credit. I mean, nobody gave them a chance.
No.
Nobody did. And they came out and they won convincingly. So congratulations to Monterey. And as far as Schuylkill Haven goes, we'll see what they do this week. We'll see how they can bounce back.
Yeah, I did say last week that I did see some positive things from the Monterey team. I thought they were pretty physical up front. I thought they could move the ball decently. I thought Dolsky was a nice runner, a pounder that could get it done. And I said they'd take care of the football. I didn't think they were going to win the game, but I thought they'd at least be in the game. And they took it to that next level. And that was one that, as I'm calling the North Schuylkill game, we're getting the texts and the updates and the scores, and keep an eye on that one as you're calling another game, because that was the shocker of the week, no doubt. And hats off to the Monterey area. They took one on the chin in week 1, and just goes to show you, all the teams that are struggling right now, just keep plugging away, like you said, Pat. Just any week and it can happen.
And 5 turnovers for Schuylkill Haven.
Exactly, they turned it around.
You can't. If you have 5 turnovers, I don't care how good you are. Most likely you're not going to win. So they got to cut that down too. They have too many senior laden guys and experienced guys to be turning the ball over 5 times, and I think they know that. And moving forward, they better do something to fix that, because if they don't, who knows what happened? I mean, they're going to be fighting for a spot in the single A playoffs if they don't.
Oh yeah, we're in week 3, and they're in emergency mode right now. After this past week, that's for sure. Think 2 weeks in a row, not a whole lot of carries.
No.
Maybe under the weather a little bit.
Yeah, we don't know. Yeah.
But we'll see how that plays out in week 3. But all the credit goes to Monterey area. Bouncing back, and as you mentioned, that's the 2 things that shocked me and impressed me was the way that they bounced back, and also the way that we expected Haven to come out and Monterey area to take that and fight through and pull away at the end and get that big win. So speaking of that game, let's take a look at our players of the week. Since we're on that game, I'll start. I got Mason Ryan. Mason Ryan from Monterey area, 80 yards passing, 147 yards rushing, TD run, TD pass, and probably most importantly, the scoop and score at the end, 80-yard fumble return for a TD that sealed that 38-21 win over Haven. So he's my hard cold performer of the week. Mason Ryan from Monterey area, great job.
All right, I'm going to pick Bud Moyer from Tamaqua as my hard cold player of the week. We talked last week about changes that Tamaqua had to go through, losing their quarterback in week 1 to the broken ankle, and how they're going to move some things around. And it ended up Bud Moyer got 30 carries, and he put the offense on his shoulders. He said, just let me get it done. 30 carries, 228 yards, 2 touchdowns. One of those an impressive 74-yard run. So for a team that needed to bounce back after a rough week 1 and get a non-league win and get things rolling, Bud Moyer, junior running back, congratulations, way to step up and carry your team.
Yeah, and I'm Angelo Mascornic, Marion's senior wide receiver. Simple as this: if you don't have an aggressive, taller, strong cornerback, you're gonna have a tough time covering this guy. He's 6'2", 6'3", 200 pounds. He can go up and get it. He's quick. He runs great routes, and he's a great blocker too. He's an all-around team guy, and he plays well. And on the defensive end, this guy's turned out to be a monster for Marion. 8 tackles, 2 sacks last week. He has 5 sacks in the first 2 games. That's impressive, especially for somebody that last year. We all follow the game pretty closely, and I don't remember him being a big guy on the defensive end for Shenandoah at all. But this year, he's really come out and showed, hey, I'm going to play both sides of the ball. I'm going to play them effectively, and so he's my hard cold player of the week, just for his effort and continue. Hopefully, he can continue to play as well as he is going forward.
Okay, closing out, taking a look at the AFL standings after 2 weeks. We got 4 teams that are 2-0. Jim Thorpe, Heighton, North Schuylkill, and Marion. Next we got Blue Mountain, Monterey area, Haven, and Tamaqua, all at 1-1. And then we got Minersville, Panther Valley, and Shenandoah at 0-2. So that's your standings for now. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we preview Week 3's games. That's it for segment 1. We'll be back in a little bit to take a look at next week's AFL action.